Nicole James Escobar here. We're here with part 3 of Chef's Kiss, my original short story. Once inside the large spaceport that overlooked Earth, we were able to disembark the space shuttle. The gravity had been altered to be like Earth's, and there was oxygen, so no one had to use a spacesuit. It felt more like a hotel or a warehouse than what I had felt space would feel like. I was given my own room, no window, just a plain off-white room. It was small, with a bed and a small bathroom with a shower that I just barely fit into. I had been in a similar-sized room when I had gone for a cruise for my birthday 2 years ago. The cruise room had also been an interior windowless room. I felt a wave of homesickness hit me then in a sickening way, for Earth and for the life that I had been living, for Sarah and even work. No one knew that I was off-planet. The fear that something might happen to me and no one I loved would ever know hit me hard. The tears that came to my eyes a physical sign. I wanted to go home. I started to go find out what Alex was doing. At least a friendly face would help me feel better. I didn't have my phone and I felt empty without it. One of the guards asked me to stay in my room before I had gotten down the hallway. Cameras were everywhere here, and I got the feeling that privacy wasn't going to be possible. The competition was unlike anything I had ever expected. I tried to entertain myself with reading my cookbook, but my nerves were on edge. Time seemed to drag. Dinner was brought to my room, a basic meal of chicken and rice with minimal flavor. A video appeared on the TV screen in my room welcoming me and going through the rules. Basically, everyone had to stay in our rooms until we were taken to compete. Meals and outfits that we were going to wear on the show during filming would be given to us. Time seemed to stand still. Challenge 1, 50 contestants. The next morning, I was selected to get taken to the studio to start my competition. The guard opened my door and looked me over. I was dressed in the gray chef uniform that had my name embroidered on it. The guard told me to follow him. He walked as if he was in a hurry to take me to the competition, which I appreciated. The first thing I noticed when I walked into the studio was that on the wall, there was a projection of a large game board. I liked game boards. It had the colors of black, silver, white, and gold on the board, making me think of an adult game with that color scheme. The little squares made a path that wound their way around the board. On the center of the board were the words, Chef Space Competition. There were 2 chef stations in this room, one for me and one for my competition. Cameras formed a barrier between us and the door, with 3 people operating the cameras and audio equipment. This was different than how I normally cooked. I felt my nerves rise and my hand shook a little with nerves. A man was at the left station, his suave, dapper energy radiating some trendy hipster restaurant chef with a menu that looked better than it tasted. He had the black chef outfit that we had been issued this morning, with the black chef apron with his name Jaden embroidered on white. A woman dressed in business casual, clearly not a chef, walked into the room and started to speak. You are both going to head to earn your spot in the competition. The loser, well, this time anyway, goes home. You have 30 minutes to prepare your dishes. The dish that you will prepare is a chicken dish, the woman said. A large digital timer appeared in the center of the game board with 30 minutes on it. A 4th person walked onto the set with 2 small crates that were stacked in her arms. She placed one on my workstation and one on Jaden's. I looked through it. Chicken, salt, flour, spices, a few other things that whoever set up this competition deemed essential. As soon as I saw some cream cheese with some jalapenos, I knew what dish I was going to prepare. I decided to do a Mexican-style approach to the chicken dish and do a spicy chicken with cream. This was one of my personal favorite dishes, a spicy cream with tomatoes and chicken. I chopped, cut, and seared the components of the dish till it was assembled and plated. The 30 minutes ran out as I wiped the rim of the plate clean. The tongue master will now taste both of your dishes, the woman announced. A large man with a scarred and pocked face entered the room. He was dressed in a black tunic and black pants with a gothic black robe marking his face. He was late middle-aged with dark eyes and a tousled mane of black hair that seemed to mark his eccentric personality. He strode up to me and tasted my dish with an expressionless face. Then he walked over to Jaden and tasted his dish. He looked at me and then again at Jaden. Victoria's dish is the winning dish. He turned and left, going behind the cameras and out of the stage door. Jaden walked over and shook my hand. He didn't look disappointed. Maybe he was homesick from missing Earth as well. Good job. Best of luck, Jaden said. I nodded, not sure what to say to him. The set manager came over and took us back out of the door that we had entered the set through. I went right for an interview of how the first round of the competition had been, and Jaden went to the left, eliminated from the competition. Challenge 2, 25 contestants. The next challenge was the following day. We were paired up as teams, making a total of 13 teams. One person would be their own team, chosen randomly by the AI software, and have their team score or their score count double. It would be a double-edged sword. 100% of the success or failure of the team was on that person's shoulders. The game board was now in use, 25 tokens on the board. I had a bronze-colored token, and so did the person I was partnered with. The challenge was a 12-course meal, with each of us making our own dish. It was luck of the draw which dish we ended up having to prepare. The 12-course meal consisted of 1. Hors d'oeuvres, 2. Amuse-bouche, 3. Soup, 4. Appetizer, 5. Salad, 6. Fish, 7. Main course, 8. Palate cleaner, 9. Second main course, 10. Cheese course, 11. Dessert, and 12. Final dessert. I ended up getting the soup dish. We had an hour to make our dishes. I tasted my clam chowder. It wasn't anything to write home about, but I didn't have time to make anything else. My teammates seemed to think it was the best thing they had ever made. How had they gotten the invitation to this competition? Or did space change my taste buds? Our final rating for this challenge was a 2. We didn't win, but we were also decent. The team that had lost burnt one of their dishes, and it had gone through without anyone discovering the burnt area. At the end of the round, the winners advanced 3 places on the game board. I advanced 2 places. As a final action, the losing team's game piece, the 2 white ones, were knocked off the board. The animation of the piece hitting the floor and rolling to a stop on its side was not lost on us. It seemed that we were playing a new type of cooking show. The losers were taken to a different room, while the rest of us sat in the kitchen waiting to do interviews about how the challenge had gone. After a few hours of interviews, I was taken back to my room. Round 3, 23 contestants. This time we were given a little more freedom in making the menu. Apparently they wanted us to really showcase our talents. I made a main course this time, wanting the judges to see that I was a well-rounded chef, not just a super dessert maker. Some people didn't have the technical ability to make good main courses. Then again, the people who made the main courses only might not have the technical ability to make the more intricate dishes that had engaging elements to them. This time, all the people who didn't make a chosen dish were taken out of the group, with everyone except the 2 lowest places getting a passing score. This was a mass elimination round. My piece was to move forward on the game board. I assumed the eliminated people were sent home, but I never saw any of them. I got home late because I had to do my on-camera interview about how the round went. What do you think of the member of your group who was eliminated? The wording on that question felt a little strange. They're a good chef. It just didn't work out this time, I said, trying to be a graceful victor. Round 4, 20 contestants. This round I got the appetizers. Appetizers are easy. People are hungry, and as the first dish, the appetizer only needs to taste decent and look pretty. I like to think of them as the hype to the rest of the meal. If the appetizer is good, people think the rest of the meal is good. That's sort of the same way the dessert is viewed. A good dessert can save a meal just like a good appetizer can start the meal off right. I made a veggie dip with homemade chips. It wasn't fancy, but I thought the flavors were good. Sort of staying in a theme with Mexican-style dishes, but so far it was working for me. I made it through this round. The bottom 3, including one person who had made an appetizer, got eliminated. There were 3 judges now, the tongue master and 2 other female judges. The 2 female judges apparently owned their own restaurants and were respected chefs, but not well known enough for any other competitors I had chatted with in my brief encounters to have heard of them. As the unlucky 3 competitors were escorted out of the room, a television screen showed their walk down the maze of hallways of the space station, a cameraman running in front of them, recording their somber faces. I know I would have felt the same way. They were taken into a room that was unlike any of the other rooms in the space station, a room with windows looking at Earth. I felt another pang of jealousy because the losers were about to go home, and I was still here, standing in a floating metal space station a long distance above the surface of the Earth. The camera people did a final pan around the room, and then the view went to a camera that was high on the wall. The camera people left in a hurry, and the door seemed to seal shut. The 3 eliminated contestants were the only people in the windowed room. The 3 people looked at each other, and I saw one to start to cry. Something bad was about to happen, and I didn't know what to expect. It happened just as I was blinking, a door opening to the vastness of outer space, sucking the 3 losers without spacesuits into its darkness. I froze, processing what had just happened. The cameras panned on the ensuing murder scene. What else was this? What type of show had I signed up for? The other contestants that were with me were horrified, realization dawning on our faces that this was indeed a competition to the death. What type of paperwork had we signed? Now it was becoming clear why the competition had to be held off Earth, away from governments and people who would shut down this competition. The judges looked at us. They were used to seeing death, and the displays of our emotions were weakness. The only way out of this competition is to win. This is a different type of cooking competition. We told you that when we sent you the documents. That's why we had so many competitors. We didn't think but a few of you would sign. Almost everyone did, though, one of the female judges said. That shocked me. I hadn't read the papers. I also didn't have my phone so I could check what I had signed. The no cell phones must have been in the contract because they didn't want the families knowing that their relatives who were in the competition were being jettisoned into space for losing a challenge. I started crying in a gasping way. This wasn't fair. Was this the first time they had killed the people who had lost? Could there have been other competitors as well who had died? The fear of losing hit me like a wave, knocking me down into the ocean. Grief for people who I hadn't even known threatened to drown me. I wanted to leave this competition, but without a shuttle, I had no way back to Earth. Maybe I could find the shuttle, get on it, somehow make it back to the safety of Earth. I tried to go out of the door, but it was locked. The locked door was something new. I tried to open it by using one of my knives, only injuring myself and chipping the knife when it slipped off the metal hinge and slashed against my arm. I slumped against the door, holding my bleeding gash, tears streaming down my face, not because I was hurt, but for the anger I felt to come out some way. Anger that I hadn't read the contract. Anger for the people who had thought up this competition. Fear that I was next to find out what awaited me in the vacuum of space. I sat for a long time until I felt numb. Then I lay down on the floor, my eyeballs threatening to explode with the pressure that crying had caused. Sometime later I fell asleep, and nightmares consumed my sleep.